Good morning. Welcome back to everybody. Sorry, I was silent for quite a while. I had to sort out one or two personal things, and then really work has taken off. There was literally zero free time to do any of this. And the family gets a bit upset if I work too long hours after hours. But anyway, we're back with interesting one. So one of the previous meetings I've done, we've also chatted about callable flows, and it was a reasonable a new one for me. We did some demos on how to run those callable flows on premise, and a little bit of the why you should do it and so on. And my good friends in the IBM Client Center here in Johannesburg has recently given me access to a Cloudback for integration installation there. And I was then able to start working a lot more closer with the Cloudback itself. And I've decided that the first demo I want to do on the Cloudback will be for callable flows, because it works slightly different than the way it works on premise and the way it works in IBM Cloud. I mean, the whole concept of callable flows is the same, just the artifacts that you install here and then the configuration is slightly different. Then, so I'm going to do a short presentation on that. I've chatted to a few guys in the labs and so on, trying to get some ideas about, why you would do it and to compare it with some other technologies out there. And then one or two comments that I've heard about callable flows lately, and then I'll do a live demo to our Cloudback for integration installation here in Johannesburg. For instance, I'm going to do calls from my local machine there, etc. So, what is callable flows? Callable flows is really splitting your flow applications to run in two different message flows out there. When you split processing, let me just get my pointer going. Okay, when you split processing between different integration servers, your flows communicate by using a switch server and connectivity agents. The switch server is an integration server. You actually install it and run it with just a command line. And it is a special kind of integration server that routes data. So your agents will communicate with a switch server, and the switch server will understand where is the endpoints running as is received that information from the connectivity agents. Also inside the connectivity agents, it contains the certificates that your flows require to communicate securely with a switch server. And then a connectivity agent must be running in each integration server where you have deployed some message flows. Now, a little bit of information around it. So a message flow can call another flow directly. What it means is that you don't need any intermediary to give that data to when you move it to the other flow. It is really designed for calling across network boundaries and for when the same people own both sides. In other words, the way callable flows works, it takes the packet of data that's available inside your calling side of the flow, and it passes it over to the message flow running on the other side. But that means if that second application is not been, programmed by yourself or somebody in your team, they need to communicate to you to actually understand what is inside that packet. So that is a drawback, because, and also why we say typically this is employed by the same team of people, and we'll get to some reasons why. It does use the WebSocket transport to move data between the two message flows. You can split the processing synchronously between the message flows by using the callable flow invoke node in the calling flow, and then you've got a callable input and a callable reply nodes in the callable flow. Now, this is exactly what we're going to do today. Once you can do this, it should be very easy for you to also do it asynchronously. So you can also split the processing asynchronously between message flows by using the callable flow async invoke node in the calling flow, and then the callable input and callable reply nodes in the callable flow. And then there is a callable flow async response node that you give in the response flow. So you can call this asynchronously and synchronously from the calling side. So what I've heard people are saying around this is that when you do this, one worry is that the experience for the citizen integrator, for instance, it seems to me that the Open API connector gives a more obvious experience for data mapping. And that is very true, because when you use an API or an Open API connector, part of that connector is the description of the data. In other words, it tells you how the data looks like, so you can pull it into a graphical mapping tool and then use the fields in there. Specifically, from a citizen integrator point of view, that is very advantageous. Where you don't get that experience when you do callable flows. As I said, it just passed the packet of data to the other side. Somebody also said, this is a great idea. The narrative around the comparison with callable flows is that Open API has a well-defined interface, so it gives better separation between the two sides, and therefore is more appropriate for cross-persona collaboration. All right, so it's follow up on what we've said before. And then with callable flows, I do not have to worry about security and creating ports. What it really means is that, that security is inside the agents and on the server side. And you don't have to create ports or worry about things like APIs, where does the API sit, etc. As long as you've got the name of the callable flow that you need to communicate with, you can just pop it in there and it'll work. So it's a lot easier to work with it that way. So a little bit of callable flows versus APIs. IBM App Connect has very good REST support. So REST can allow splitting of processing between two flows. What is more, IBM App Connect integration server has a REST node specifically for calling cloud-based integrations. However, there are some reasons why callable flows in many cases is a better choice. For instance, it does not require opening any on-premise TCP/IP ports. Might be very interesting for you to have a look at that and what it means for security and so on. Flows can be moved seamlessly between on-premise and cloud servers without the calling flows being changed. As part of the demo I'm going to do today is I'm going to flip the calling and the target side around by just redeploying, and it will be able to find each other because it makes use of that switch server in the middle. It requires less skill to understand how to call and implement a callable flow. It's really just a message flow, and the configuration is dead simple. Removes the need to integrate the IBM App Connect integration servers. So you don't really have your integration servers need to worry about each other. The switch server that the administrator set up in the middle, will handle all of that for you. And it allows for future enhancements of your message flows that could not be simply added on top of a REST flow. But again, both sides, the calling and the target side, works better if it's in the same team or in the same organization, because you can communicate on what is inside it. So this is the option I've done last time. I've deployed two flows inside the same integration server. In here, number A is my callable flow invoke node. When it reaches that point, it calls out. The integration server knows where is the other one that is waiting for a call. It starts that flow, executes it until it gets a callable reply, and then returns and carry on in the first flow. So that's you really just deploy these two flows inside the same integration server, and everything is working. If, however, you deploy to two different integration servers, first of all, these integration servers now need to sit inside an integration node. So it's just something additional for App Connect that you need to take into account. Also, you need to create a switch server. It's really just generating the files for the switch server with one command, and then running another command to actually create the switch server. And then you need to do the agent it's not really a deploy, it's a setting inside your integration server. And this agent, of course, has got where to go to for the switch server, as well as the certificates in there to communicate to the switch server. So I've done this in the previous demo. Now, what we're going to do today is I'm going to deploy first both of my flows inside Cloud Pak for integration. Before I do that, I'm actually going to create the switch server. Then you'll see when I deploy the bar files for these two, I just asked to deploy with a switch server, and behind the scenes, it will actually automatically create the agents for you. I'm also going to do a deploy where my on-premise is going to call inside Cloud Pak for integration, something that runs somewhere else. And I'm also going to turn the two around where my calling side is running in Cloud Pak for integration, and my target side is going to run on-premise. Right, let me just get my demo site going. I'm going to reshare my screen, a different one. Okay. What I've got is inside my toolkit, I've got two message flows that I've created here. The one I've auto-generated just from a REST call. I've showed that in a previous demo as well on how to do that. There's my data portion inside my definitions. You can see I've got an input data and an output data section. My input data has got a field 1 and a field 2. So what my flow is going to do is going to just add these two values together and reply back to me in an answer. Also important here is you can see my resource endpoint ends with /callable. In the flow, my HTTP input for my local site, if I deploy it locally, there's my suffix for my URL sitting down here. And then really inside the flow portion itself is I've got two compute nodes, both sides of the callable flow invoke, just to show this is typically where you would do some data manipulation or any other business or any other integration logic. Right now, I'm just copying the input data to the output structure. And then the callable flow itself, it's got the definitions on it. What you need in here is two settings. The one is the name of the target application. Now, this application, in other words, where's my second part, is this name of this application running here, callable flow target. There it is. And then a unique endpoint name, so call one. If I look at this application, my callable flow application, you will see inside the callable input node, there's the connection point. You call that endpoint name call one. And then inside the compute, I've really only got set my output data answer as the sum of my field 1 and field 2. So no rocket science in here. So what I've done is I've created two bar files, and I've actually uploaded the bar files already to my Cloud Pak for integration. So if I go into my Cloud Pak for integration, you can see here is my storage space for my bar files, and I've got those two bar files already uploaded in here just to save a little bit of time. So I've got my calling side and I've got my target side of them. So I'm going to deploy both of them now on my server. Now, before I can do that, because these two will run in two different integration servers, I need to create that switch server. Remember that switch server that is sitting in my cloud. To do that, I go to my OpenShift terminal, and again, thank you for the guys to just open me this interface for the demo. The switch server is part of my App Connect. So we're running operators inside OpenShift. One of those operators installed is IBM App Connect. If I click on IBM App Connect, right on the right-hand side, there will be an App Connect switch server entry. I click on that, you see there's no switch servers running. I can say, create a switch server for me, and I'm going to give it a different name. Let me just click on that. So we're more than one person sharing these servers, so we always prefix what we create with our name. Switch server. And then I need to accept the license in the YAML. so that we can install it. And that's all I need to do. And I can hit the create button. And this is now going to create for me a switch server running there. To look at what is happening there, I can go into my workloads. It's creating this inside the pod for me. And you can see there a few seconds ago, it is starting creating for me this switch server. It's not ready yet, so there's a 0 of 1 that is running, but that should be running within a few seconds. Well, there it goes. Just now it goes into a running state. From the App Connect side, now I need to deploy my 2 flows so that both of them run inside Cloudpack for integration. I've got no flows running here at the moment, so I'm going to just create the first one. It's going to be a toolkit integration. Next, I'm going to select the bar file. There's my calling bar file. Next, what I need to do is I need to say to my flow that which, we call it an Agent X switch server, does it need to use. That is the one I've just created, FVDM switch server. There it sits there. So I select that one to deploy with my flow, and then it will create for me my local agents, but it will also take these agents and then register them with a switch server. Next, I'm going to call this, I think this was my calling site, FVDM-call, and I really only need one port to run for it, and I can do create. This takes a minute or so to create. Well, I'm not going to start the second one as well. Let's just this one come back. The one thing you will see is when you get back to this screen is that it typically will tell you unavailable, and there will be a view error here. Now, the first few times I've done this, I said, okay, I must have done something wrong. And I closed this and I deleted this guy and I tried all kinds of different things. And then I actually had an interruption with a telephone call while I was doing this for I think about the 5th time. And then I answered my phone, deal with whatever I need to do. And then when I came back, this was actually in a running state. So don't let this fool you. This means just it's busy in the background trying to create it for you. I'm also going to create now my target site in here. It's also that one. Next, when I go to my bar file, I select the target. Next, again, I need to select my switch server down there. Next, I'm going to give it its own name, avdm/target, and then only one replica. I'm going to create it. So let's just wait for that to show me the dashboard again. There you go. When I hit the refresh button, you see right up at the right hand side. This will not automatically refresh. It's been an announcement we've asked for in the lab, so hopefully it will happen in the future. But when we hit the refresh button, you can see which ones has been started up already and which ones is active. So you can see the calling side is already up. It says started. And the target is still busy deploying down there. And remember what it's doing is actually deploying an integration server behind the scenes. Now, remember, I've got a REST interface to this one. So to get the endpoint there, I click on it and I click on the call. It will show me here is my endpoint. So I'm going to grab this endpoint. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to use Postman just to send some data in there. Now, I can copy in there. Sorry, the last bit in there is callable, so I'm going to keep that. And my body, you see there's my field 1 and my field 2. And I'm going to add some values in here, maybe make this one 25 and this one 5. Let me just go and check now what is happening in my dashboard to make sure that my target is actually up and running. Go in there. Yes, both of them is up and running. So when I do my call from Postman, hopefully I will get a positive answer. So I'm calling it. Yes, I'm getting back an answer of 30. So what has happened is that I've called this site, my FVDM call with a REST call, a REST post. This flow has started to run and it's via the switch server. It knew how to reach the target application. It called the target application. This target application was doing the summation for me and returned the answer to my call. And this calling flow has then given me the the output back. So that was quite easy to do. Now, the next bit I need to do is I need to split this between an on-premise and one flow running inside my local broker on my machine. So I'm going to first move the target to my side. So I'm going to delete it from the side to make sure there's nothing running in this area that can confuse us. I'm going to go back to my toolkit. You see here I've got a node with a node MQ1 running. There's 2 integration servers in it. I'm going to use server 1. So if I take my target side and I deploy it inside server 1, it's done. And it's running, and it should be available now to receive calls. But I still don't have a way I haven't connected this target side to my switch server, that switch server that's running on IBM Cloud Pak for integration. So I will not be able to reach it. So if I go to Postman and I do the same call now, remember my calling side is still sitting on Cloud Pak for integration, but my target side is now sitting on premise, but I haven't done any configuration to show where it is. So if I do a send here, I would expect to see a problem. So there you go. It comes back with an error. It says the flow registration not found. So it doesn't know where to call this one called Callable Flow target, where it is. Now, if I go back to my cloud side, this one is running there, and I know it has registered with the switch server itself. So if I go into my OpenShift terminal, and if I look at my pods again, and I just look at them, and then I can see here's my calling side pod. So there's my switch server, by the way, still running there. But if I go into my calling side pod, now this is an integration server that has been created there for me. And if I look at the logs, inside the logs, see that's a normal integration server startup with whatever needs to be done. Now in here somewhere there's a line that gives me the agent path. There you go. So there you see it's starting the agent X inside this configuration folder, home ACE user, ACE server config, IIB switch agent X. Now I'm going to copy this path because remember this is now inside my pod. I'm going to copy that. I can go into the terminal for this pod and I can say change directory for me to that path. If I do an ls, there is my agentx.json file. Now I need to get this agentx.json file and I need to copy it to my on-premise, where my on-premise is, because I need to use this agentx with that security certificates in there, as well as the path to the switch server, so that I can register it inside my local integration server. To do that, I do have a command I can copy in there. My command is this one here, a OC copy command. What I do need for it is the name of my pod. Now the name of my pod is this one here. And you can see it's the different one that is already inside my command there. So I'm going to have to copy it and then paste it in here. There you go. And the path, I've copied the wrong way around now, but my path is this one running here. Where is this? That one. /home agentx. There it is. Copy. And it should be the same as what is sitting here. Yes, it is the same as what is sitting there. And I'm going to copy this file to my local directory on my C drive, C Delmi callable agentx.json. So let me copy this command. I'm going to go into normal command prompt. You see I've already changed there. If I do a dir here, there's nothing in it. So I'm going to do a copy. And if I do a dir now, you'll see there's my agentx.json. Now I can just, for interest's sake, open up that file. Just use a notepad, agentx.json. And you can see here, there's the pointer to my switch server. You can see it's running on IBM Client Center, all kinds of things in there. What port does it use? And then there's the certificates he's going to use to communicate with that server. Now, to run this agentx and give it the information to my integration server, the first thing I need to do is I need to first stop my node. You can't run the command against it while it is still running. You just stop it. I need to run then this command, MQSI change properties, against, there's my integration server. There's my integration node, there's my integration server, and it says this is my object, this is IIB switch manager, and use for me agent x.json. So that is the command I need to run against my node MQ. I see my node doesn't want to stop because it still shows this. I'm just going to force it to stop. So I'm going to do a MQSI stop node, what do I call it, MQ1. Let's just make sure it does go into the stop state. Now it's stopped. I can now run this MQSI change properties command against it. Successful completion. So let's do a MQSI start node MQ1. Now, when this node starts up again, it will go into the integration service and use these properties to actually do the registration against my agent, against my switch server that is running on Cloudpack for integration. Let's just see if I do a refresh when it's going to be up. There you go, it's up, and you see my flow is actually still running inside there. So now this would have registered with a switch server on Cloudpack for integration. So if I go back here and I can do a send again, remember this is still pointing to my on the cloud. Sorry, not on the cloud, on Cloudpack for integration. I send, and this time it comes back with an answer of 30. All right, so now it's working. So this guy was successfully registered with a switch server. Just to show that I can do it the other way around as well. Let's go back here. I need to just go and delete my calling side now. And note, I'm not going to do anything with my switch server now. As soon as I start the target side on this side, it will register with it. I also need to, I'm going to delete my target side on this side. Yes, I want to get rid of it. If I go back in here, I can create now my target on this side. This is in Cloudpack for integration, so there's my target. Next, I need my switch server. Where is it? There you go. Next, it needs a name, VDM-target. Again, I only need one replica. I can do more, but it takes longer to start up 3 than just 1. Create. So that's going to go in its process. I'm going to go back to my on-premise side, and I'm going to grab my callable side. There's my callable flow. I'm going to drag it and drop it on my same server as before, because remember, this integration server is registered with the switch server. There you can see it is actually deployed it, and it's in a running state. Remember from this one, what is my, there's my HTTP, so I need to go to my localhost, do this call /v1, and my and my resource is sitting at /callable over there. So I can go into Postman. I've of course preset this up for us. So my on-premise call, there is my localhost port 7080. So this is where my flow is running, and I'm going to do the callable flow there. And let's change some of the parameters. Let's make it a 10 and a 5 that I'm going to add. And before I do that, let me go and check what is happening here. If I do a refresh to see if my Cloudpack for integration deployment is successful. So once you've set up those the switch server and you've registered, your integration service with it, you really don't have to touch that environment yet. You say it's not up yet on this side. So let me just go in here. Let me see what happens if I do a call. Oh yeah, it's actually up behind the scenes. So let me just go into my pods. Let's make 100% sure. There's my target running here. And yes, this 1 of 1 is ready. So this interface might be just lagging a bit. Let me see. Yes, it's actually started. So if I go back in here, you can see there my call was successful. I can change this to a 6. And my answer is now 16. So what this side is now doing, I'm actually calling on-premise. My on-premise has got an agent that has been registered with a switch server. the switch server, remember, is running inside Cloud Pak for integration. This one is running in Cloud Pak for integration, has also registered with that same switch server. So when you talk to the switch server, they know where is the two sides of both of these message flows, and that's how it establishes the communication with each other. Now, once you've done this once or twice, it's actually really easy to do, and I hope that is something that my IIB or ACE guys can start to do. By the way, I've also done this. You've seen in the previous one, I've done this for on-premise environments. I've also done this to IBM Cloud. So if you don't have access to Cloud Pak for integration, you can go and do a free registration inside IBM Cloud, and you can do exactly this kind of calling on IBM Cloud as well. There's one different way is how you get that agent X file back to you, but if you go into the flow that is running there, there's actually a little button to click on that says, give me the agent X file, but then the rest is exactly the same. Okay, the floor is open for any discussions, any comments.
Hi, Francois, Tyron here.
Hi, Tyron.
How's the overhead with something like this? Obviously, there's going to be latency and all that, but what is the overhead of these actual switch agents?
Okay. I haven't seen any official performance documents, but I've discussed it with somebody because I had exactly the same question from a customer as well. And they say that it should be favorably comparable to, say, a REST call, because there's less things that you need to do. It actually just pick up a raw string from your side, a raw bit of memory, and pass it to the other side, because it's also a message flow running on that side. It knows exactly how to parse that. Where if you do it, say, via a REST call, then, there's certain translations that needs to be done in there. It's definitely faster than putting, say, an MQQ manager in the middle. I don't know against an open API call, but, it might be similar than doing a REST call. So, yes, we're trying to get some official performance out of it. I don't know. Any other comments or questions? Okay, if you guys want to play with this, if you get stuck in the IBM Cloud, let me know. Of course, I will try and help you. Or if you want to play it with the Cloud Pak for integration, if you've got access to one, you can do it there as well. On my presentation side, let me just drag my folder in here. What I usually do is I try and do a little bit of a news section. By the way, all of this information, this presentation, and soon the recording is, of course, available inside this download folder here. If you go to this link, I've copied this link into the chat as well. So if you go there, you will go to today's date, and you will find the presentation in there. And I will also copy this file with the commands you need to do. I will also copy in there. Just a little bit on news. As there's been a lot of talk these days around ethics and ethical computing. So I found this on inside our IBM newsroom. It says the tech industry's recent reckoning isn't only happening in Washington. Of course, this is an American article. Universities are also evolving their approach to teaching and researching ethics. So this is actually a very, very interesting topic to go and read up on. What does it mean to do ethical computing, ethical hacking? And there's a few not so subtle and a few very subtle points in there. So the University of Notre Dame unveiled a new tech ethics lab with the backing of IBM, which will conduct research on some of the most pressing dilemmas confronting the field, from how to build privacy into products to weighing how police should be able to use such tools, such as facial recognition, without perpetuating racial biases. I think one of the pieces that in the news was a few months ago is that IBM has actually stopped developing and selling these products for facial recognition. We might start sometime in the future again, but only after we've solved some of the biases that happens in tools like this. The initiative, in which IBM is investing $20 million over the next decade, arrives at a critical moment. There's, of course, the American election, there's the coronavirus, and then there's widespread racial unrest are prompting new debates about the role of technology in society. Another early project possibility is how technology could help people return safely to work during the coronavirus pandemic. Have a look at this, go to the IBM newsroom. If you just go to IBM newsroom, you will find it, or you Google that. And that will be then what we're doing for today. I can stay online for another 5 minutes to discuss anything around integration. If you guys has got any questions, or you just want to say hello and, over a cup of coffee, and how's things going at home or whatever.